Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our SSC CHSL refresher series session 3, but the second session for the English language. So hopefully those who celebrated Sankranti and Pongal had lots of good food to eat and you're back all refreshed. Whichever festival comes and goes, the exams always happen on the scheduled date, right? So our preparation has to continue no matter what. So who's here? Upendra, Chinnu, Vidyan, Banashri, Sai, Preeti, Ramu, Vishal, Surendran, Tamaran, Spandana, Rupesh, Rajshekhar, Rahul, Arpita, Jai Joseph, Vijay, Rishiv, Anil, Rahul, Prabhjot, Sriram, Kiran, Vikas. Okay, some names are repeating. Anand, Naveen and Navina. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. So good to see you guys. I'm almost familiar with a whole lot of names here. So good to see you guys. Yes, it just started, Rupesh. So, you know the drill, right? If you were here for the last session, I thought we'll do something different today. As in, what's the point of being a part of a session and you don't retain what you've learned during the session? It doesn't make sense, right? You're spending what, 1.5 hours with me here, and then you're learning a whole lot of things. At least for the most part, you're expanding your vocabulary. So let me do a quick test on your memory. Okay, so if you were here for the last session, usually when we learn new words are usually associated with an image or a person. Okay, so I'm gonna say what I said as a definition for this word, and I want to see who can give me the word. Okay, are you ready? So what I said for this word is, if somebody pours water on you suddenly, what will be your immediate reaction? So the name for that reaction is the word. Can you guess the word? In 30 seconds, if I don't get an answer, I'll give you a clue. Huh? Rupesh, it's usually for an hour and a half. It might extend a little more. So your 30 seconds countdown has started, huh? Okay, fine. You're exempted. Ayushi is giving me, yes, Shubham, super. But the spelling is wrong though. It's S-Q-U-A-W-K. Good. All right. So I'm glad at least some of you are able to retain what you're learning. Okay. So for those of you who weren't here, the word that a couple of you gave are synonyms of the same word. The word is squawk. Yeah, S-Q-U-A-W-K. But strategy, Arun, if you're part of the session, you learn strategies through the process, right? The entire session is very strategic. So whichever question type we are discussing, you will learn quite a bit of strategies. Yeah. So other synonyms associated with the same word, one or two of you gave me was, I think somebody said squeak, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So shout, shriek, what else? Scream. All these are synonyms of the same word, squawk. Okay, Vikas, it's your first class. Welcome. So those of you, if this is your first session, please let me know. We can get started, right? So I keep saying this, in every session we will end up learning either a new concept, definitely a whole number of new words. We will also refresh our concepts, right? If you think that you know the rule or a particular concept, you might surprise yourself that you've been learning it the wrong way, right? So you might end up doing some remedial things here, in the sense you might correct what you've learned incorrectly. Okay. Gauri, don't worry, we haven't started yet. We're just about to start. Aishwarya, it's your first session, great. All right, Saif as well. Okay, so let's get started. Let me share the PPT. Okay. Okay, so the first question we have is fill in the blank. Jitendra, welcome. So let's read. The lawyer tried to dash his client to accept the generous settlement offer. Okay, my options, our options are draw, seduce, incite, and persuade. So what do you think is the response? So for those of you who are new, when it comes to fill in the blanks, quick tips. There's always clues in the context, right? So you just have to look for those clues. So when I say clue words, how will you identify clue words? It basically answers the question who or what. Okay, so identify the clue words. Chinu, if you can give me the clue phrase from the question which helped you arrive at that answer, that'll be great. Let's go back to the question. Sri Rama as well. Right, so Ashwin has something different from the rest of you. Ashwin says option 2, seduce. Anybody else? For the most part, everybody is coming back with option 4. Saif says option 3, incite. Yeah, so majority option 4. One or two of you says option 2. A couple of you says option 3. Let's see what the answer is. So what's the clue phrase from the question, anybody? Clue word or phrase. What do you think? So I have some more people coming back saying option 2 and option 3. Yes, Chinu, very good, right? We are talking about, and a very important word is also, the clue phrase from the context is to accept what? Generous settlement offer. Now this is a good thing, no? Don't you think? If somebody is willing to give you over and above what your expectation is, right? Generous means not just enough but more than enough settlement offer, right? So somebody is trying to do something to you so that you accept this generous settlement offer, right? So which is a good thing. Now if you look at the options, we can quickly eliminate 1 and 2 in fact, right? The lawyer tried to draw his client. No. Whenever I have to eliminate options, I quickly do one thing, right? I associate this word with other words. You can draw someone's attention, right, to something. You can draw strength from something. It can even be your friends, right? Or from prayer. You can draw money. Right? None of these meanings align with the context. Option 1 is out. Seduce. Seduce is to entice somebody, right? Usually associated with sexual activity, a completely unrelated word, out. The lawyer tried to incite. Now what's the meaning of incite? Incite means also to urge or persuade. Most of you might have come back and said option 3 because it also means persuade, right? But so what's the difference between incite and persuade? That's what we need to figure out. That's the dilemma. Now if you look at it, the reason why I pointed out generous settlement offer is, and also pointing out saying it's a good thing, is to help us choose between incite and persuade. Now when will you use incite? When I say I incited someone, usually you use incite, okay, to refer to something where the result is always a violent or uncontrolled behavior. Okay, again, let's look at some collocations with incite. Okay, you can incite someone to go on a strike. Okay, you can incite someone to go on a rebellion. Are you following? It's usually used in a negative context. Incite, this word is usually used in a negative context. And if you look up synonyms for incite, okay, you'll have kindle, instigate, provoke, ignite, right? So usually used in a negative context, incite. Remember that. But our context is not negative. Our context is positive. Okay? So persuade would be the most effective word given our context, right? You persuade someone usually because it's the right thing to do. Yeah? Are you following? Because it's the right thing to do, you persuade someone. Right? You can, let's say you are benefiting from joining the gym. Okay, having joined the gym. So you persuade your friend also to join the gym. Right? Or you went through a phase of illness and you met this doctor, and whatever treatment this doctor gave was extremely positive, beneficial. So you persuade someone to go see that doctor, especially when they are going through a phase of illness, right? So because you persuade someone because it's the right thing to do. And in our context, if somebody is offering you a generous settlement of offer, why are you thinking twice about it? Take it, right? So persuade is the answer. Are you with me? Incite, persuade, meaning is the same, but used in a completely different context in terms of positive and negative. Remember that. Let's move on. What is this? Sentence improvement. The stranded pilgrims had waited in the bitter cold for more than 2 hours now, and our highlighted phrase, or the one in brackets, is had waited. So again, sentence improvement also same thing, right? There'll always be a clue, especially when it comes to tenses. There's always a time reference clue in the context. What's the clue? Give me the clue phrase before you give me the answer. The stranded pilgrims had waited in the bitter cold for more than 2 hours now. Our options are has been waiting, have waited, no improvement. So, yeah, I have, everyone's giving me the answer. What's the clue phrase? Yes, Ayushi. Good. This person for more than 2 hours now, which means this person, the action of this person waiting started 2 hours back and it is still continuing till now. Right? So, obviously, I need a perfect tense. Perfect continuous tense, in fact. Right? Present perfect continuous tense. So, I can quickly eliminate option 3. And the given option is incorrect. So, it cannot be no improvement. So, between 1 and 2, I know we are talking about a plural subject, pilgrims, more than one. So, it has to be have and not has, right? That's it. Yeah, pretty easy. So, whenever it comes to, whenever you have example sentences with tenses, especially past perfect tense, present perfect tense, look for hint words and clue words, right? Since, now, these are all hint words for present perfect tense, present perfect continuous tense. Yeah. Let's move on. Okay. This is a spot the error question. I am coming directly to my office from the station. What do you think can be the part that has the error, or is there any error at all? Uttara says A. Okay. What about the rest of you? So if you say part A is where the error is, what would you change that to? So basically everybody says I have part A, part B, part C and no error. You've given me all the 4 options. So let's look at this context, okay? So if I look at the entire context, I am coming directly. Usually, if you're saying I'm coming directly, you always coming from some place. No, you can't be coming to a place which is structurally and grammatically incorrect. It sounds awkward. Let's go back to the context, right? So I can say I am coming directly from my office. So I'll say, boss, let me change to from here. But then the remaining context doesn't make sense, right? I am coming directly from my office from the station. That sounds a little even more weird. So if I have to maintain the grammar sense as well as the meaningful sense, I either, the only way to make this correct is if I change part A, right? Somebody said, I can say, I came directly to my office from where? From the station. Now, this makes sense, right? Don't you think? So I came directly to my office from where? From the station. I came directly. So if I have to change the whole thing, I would say part A. Though, or I can also say I am coming directly or I am coming directly. Again, when you say I'm coming directly to my office, sounds a little weird, right? I am going directly to my office from the station also is, I'm coming directly to my office, that part is. So either you say I'm going directly, okay, or I'm coming directly, it doesn't matter. Either ways, I would say if I have to make corrections, it will be part A. Right? Follow? So sometimes don't fall by what the source is. Oh, by the way, this paper is previous year's paper. I think it's Jan 1st shift 1 paper. Just so you know the source. Yeah? Okay, moving on. Again, we have a sentence improvement. Came into is where the highlighted phrase is. The exhausted travelers seemed relieved when the train finally came into the station. And my options are pulled in, pulled into, pulled on to, and then no improvement. What do you think is the answer? Okay, just to highlight Yuva. Yuva, the question is, where are you coming from, right? Nobody asks you where are you coming to. They ask you where are you going to. Hai na? Right? So question the sentence itself. You'll get your answer. So it does sound weird when I say I'm coming to, and a place is given, a venue is given, right? So you always say where are you coming from? Where are you going to? Not where are you coming to. Yeah, just to clarify that, because Yuva had posted a comment, I just wanted to clarify that. Coming back to this question. So again, I have various options. Pulled in, pulled into, pulled onto. So let's look at it. Pulled in. Now, if you're familiar with this, see, pulled in basically is a phrasal verb, right? Huh? Yeah, so if it's a phrasal verb, guys, what is to pull in? Again, one phrasal verb has different meanings and different contexts. We all know that. So if I say, we pulled in at midnight, which means what? We arrived someplace, our destination, right? Maybe we were traveling from Bangalore to Chennai, and the time at which we arrived was midnight. So we arrived at a destination, right? Isn't that what the context meaning is also? The exhausted travelers seemed relieved when the train finally pulled in the station, which means what? Arrived at the destination being the station, right? Now, pulled in again as a phrasal verb has different meanings, right? Let me give you a context. So, if I say, how much money does Sai pull in? What does pull in here mean? How much money does Sai pull in means how much money does he earn, basically, right? Or how much money does he obtain? Okay, so we have to constantly remember that phrasal verbs have different meanings in different contexts. Now, pulled into is usually used like, the car pulled into the garage. Like there is a space into which something, remember, into is more in a enclosed area. Let me give you an example sentence. So if I say, you can also pull someone into the car, right? That's also the context. Yeah, so just to give you an example, so I can say, I pulled into the empty parking space. Okay, you can pull someone into the car, right? You can pull someone into some place. Yeah, pulled on to I don't know how you can pull someone onto your lap. Okay, see, you don't have to be confused, Balan. When we are talking about something in terms of arriving at a destination, it's always pull in. The train pulled in this platform. Okay, so keep that in mind. So when the context meaning is arriving at a destination, always use pulled in and nothing else. Clear? Moving on. Rearrange the parts of the sentence in correct order. These are sentence jumbles. So it's one sentence broken into parts. Yeah, you can get pulled into trouble. Yes. RKR. Okay, let's look at this one. It is for the government and options. What can you quickly find that one link? What's that one link? Yeah, this is an easy one. It is for the government. This especially one is referring to what? The government only, right? And there's now no other option that starts with P. So you can quickly eliminate all the other options. It is for the government, especially one with such a significant majority. The government which has such a majority has what? The intelligence and leadership to think long term. So narrow in on one clue word and find that connect. Find a link. So for questions like this, basically, you can finish it in less than 10 seconds, right? If you just find that link. Yeah, it's a pretty easy one. Let's move on. Idiom and phrase, to drink like a fish. Options: a person who spends a lot, a person who keeps cheating for a very long time without getting noticed, a person who needs to relieve himself very frequently. Relive himself or relieve himself? Okay, I don't know if this is a typo. To drink excessive amounts of alcohol. I'm sorry, I didn't put the screen back. Putting the screen back. So what do you think the options are? Or what do you think the answer is? So option 4. Four, two, 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 1. Okay, I have 1, 2, and 4. Okay, answer this question. Do you think fishes drink water? Fishes, do you think they drink water? They do, right? In fact, saltwater fish drink water. Sea fish, right? They drink water. Freshwater fish, they don't really drink water. It's only through absorption. Like water gets in through their skin, gills, right? So it's like they constantly in that absorption mode, right? So the origin of this phrase actually came from there. To drink like a fish, meaning to be doing something at an excessive level, which is option 4, to drink excessive amounts of alcohol. Yeah, a person who spends a lot is a spendthrift. Another synonym you could say is a prodigal, right? Reference from one of the parables in the Bible, the prodigal son, who went and spent all the wealth that he had obtained, right? Excessive spending. A person who keeps cheating for a very long time without getting noticed, I really wouldn't know. Yeah, a person who needs to relieve himself very frequently, again, not too sure. But I was just trying to make a fool out of this. A person who keeps cheating for a very long time without getting noticed. I don't know. Politician. One of my friends said politician. And I just had a good laugh about it. But the thing is, we know people who cheat. And we notice them, but we're still okay with that. Anyway. So, cheater. Prince is saying cheater. Yeah, so let's move on. If you somebody asked other questions which I overlooked. So Chinnu, I think somebody also asked, no, Gauri asks what is thrift. Actually, thrifty means being economical, being very wise in spending. But spendthrift is a completely different word, right? Which means somebody who spends excessively. Yeah, thrifty is another word. So don't confuse the two. So for this one, the answer is option 4. Let's move on. Let's look at our next one. Raja is getting very personal. Girls. There is a deeper, okay. Can you look for a associated word? Can you look for a collocation? From this question, there's a collocation. Yes, RKR, you're right. Sneha says option 2, which is PQR. So it's between 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Okay guys, I want you to pick a collocation from the context which will help you arrive at the right answer. Collocation, yes, Ayushi, thank you. Associated words, right? This word will go with this word, which is to go beyond something. What's your collocation right there? So which means R has to follow P, and the only option that does that is option 3 and option 1. I will eliminate option 2 and 4, but between option 1 and 3 there is a deeper what? Right? I need a noun. Deeper fissure. What's a fissure? What's a fissure? It can mean some sort of a weakness or some sort of a flaw or some sort of a, division. Okay? So there is a deeper fissure here that goes beyond explanations from Western theory. It has to be option 1, PRQ. That's our answer. Okay, so once you find the collocation, so I keep saying this for sentence jumbles, look for collocations, look for associated words that go together, find that link and connect the rest of the sentence. Rift, yes. Other meanings for fissure. Let's move on. Select the synonym of to preside. So you've heard people say, right, to preside at a meeting, to preside at a conference, which means what? Basically, you're acting as the chair, the moderator, someone who, let's go back to the options. To acquiesce, to concur, to officiate, to accord. So most of you are coming back and saying option 3, some of you are saying option 2. So we just saw the meaning of preside, right? Someone who is, I would say, chairperson, somebody who's a moderator, etc. Someone who basically holds a position of authority. Okay? Now, acquiesce, the option 1, which means, you immediately agree with someone or something without any protest, right? I mean, I don't know why they have these words in the exam. We don't use these words, right, in conversations, in normal speech. You and I, you might have heard concur. To concur means, let's say you're having a team discussion and then your team manager says, so we have decided with this, what do you think, Deepankar? And Deepankar says, I concur, which means I agree with this decision, right? So Deepankar wouldn't say I acquiesce, right? But we do have these Greek or Latin sounding words in between just to confuse us. Anyway, so to acquiesce means same meaning, to comply, basically without any protest. Comply means agree. Concur also means to agree. To accord also means what? To agree. And our answer is to officiate. Okay? To preside over something means to act as a chairperson, moderator, position of authority. Officiate would be the, they've asked for a synonym, right? And did you notice all the other three options are synonyms? 1, 2 and 4. Point to be noted. Yes, Suraj. To agree, to be of the same opinion, yes. Okay, let's move on. Synonym of dabble. Dabble, dabble. I'll give you a context. My 2-year-old son constantly dabbles in water. Picture my 2-year-old son. If he's dabbling in water, what can that action mean? Guess. If that word is new to you, what can that action mean? Forget the options. You can only see my face. So tell me, from the context that I gave you, my 2-year-old son dabbles in water. Means what? Play. Yes. RKR. So how will he play? Logically, he'll be either splashing the water with his hands or his legs, right? Yeah? Yeah, that's dabbling, right? Okay. Now go back. So, and basically this is he doing it with some sort of a purpose or some sort of a direction? Does he have an agenda? No. Simply, like, if I take him for a bath, right? He has to spend time in the tub dabbling with water. So that's, for me, waste of time. But I just let him be because he's just doing it playfully, right? Now, let's go back. So dabble from our option solemn, austere, meditative and dally is the options. Have you heard this word dilly-dally? Dilly-dally. I want you to make up your mind, Tejas. I don't want you to dilly-dally. Which means what? Don't waste time. Pick. Make a choice. Pick something. Decide what you're going to wear. Decide what is the agenda. Right? I don't want any dilly-dallying. So, these two phrases are connected in the manner where you're referring to something where there's no purpose. It's just wasting time. Okay? So, the synonym for dabble is dal. I'm sure this is a new word for you again, dabble. You have no idea. You just learnt it. So basically, dabble means to do something in a half serious way, like a hobby. Like you're not fully into it, you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And another meaning that I gave with an example is just to playfully, splash water around. Okay. So, two meanings there. Or the other meaning is to do something half serious way. Basically, you're not focused. Okay, and dilly-dally is the expression, if you didn't know that, which means you're wasting time through aimless, either indecision, right? What's the meaning of solemn? Let's quickly associate this word, right, with other words. A solemn, wow, a solemn occasion, a solemn procession, right? Austere. So solemn. Solemn means what? A solemn vow. Something very sincere. Okay? Maybe religiously inclined. So if there's some bad news, somebody is coming to give you some bad news, right? He can have a solemn, he can convey the news, you know, with a solemn face, which means he's extremely serious and very earnest because he's conveying bad news. He or she is conveying bad news, right? So sincere, solemn. Austere. What's the meaning of austere? Again, austere life. I'm just associating words with this word. Austere expression. Austere style. What can it mean? Again, we're talking about something very strict, something very formal, something very severe. Yes. Serious, formal, strict. Meditative, we all know, right? Somebody is being extremely thoughtful. Somebody is being very reflective. Another synonym for thoughtful is being pensive. Yeah. So if you are, imagine if you're meditating, obviously you're going to be, when people are looking at you, you're very thoughtful, again serious, right? In fact, if you ask me again, solemn, austere, meditative, more or less very synonym in nature, right? Apart from Dali, again I have 1, 2, 3, almost synonym in meaning. Do you see a pattern here? Should we fall back on this pattern? Should we rely on this pattern? No. But I'm just saying, I mean, if you notice, there's one word which is an exception and all the other 3 options are almost synonym in nature. So if you find the synonyms, get the other word. That's our answer. I'm just kidding. Please don't do that. Okay. So our answer obviously for dabble is dilly, dally, dally. Okay. We're moving forward. This is an active passive voice. Active passive voice, I keep saying, as long as you're thorough with the rules, you'll be able to quickly get this without any problem. So let's break this down. The owners remodeled the car to help it sell. Okay. Yes, Ayushi, we all, we have to constantly remind ourselves that a word in English will have different meanings in different context, right? So yes, there will be other meanings other than what I had mentioned as well. Option 1, the car was remodeled by the owners to help it sell. The car is being remodeled by the owners to help it sell. The car was remodeled by the owners to help it being sold. The car is being remodeled by the owners to help it being sold. Okay. So what's our answer? Most of you said option 1. Ayushi says option 3. How about the rest? Okay, Ayushi changes the answer to back to 1. So it's pretty easy, right? The owners is my subject. The car is my object. And this is an active voice. I know that. So when I'm changing an active voice to a passive voice, my object becomes the passive subject, which is the case every option. So which means then I have to fall back on the tense. The tense is simple present tense. When I'm changing simple present tense from active to passive, what's the form? Was plus verb 3. Which form gives me that? Which option gives me that? Option 1 and 3. I will eliminate 2 and 4. If I have to choose between 1 and 3, what will I choose? The car was remodeled by the owner. Still here it's all fine, right? After that, it says to help it sell, to help it being sold. Now, remember, my construction ends here, which is here, right? So even if I look at the, what do I say, the form in which I have to kind of make these corrections when I'm changing active to passive. So the passive just says object, which is my passive subject, plus was or were, plus verb 3, right? Plus by, and then the subject, right? This is the structure. So anything after that is just a complement. What's a complement? A complement can be anything added to complete the meaning of the sentence. So to help it sell is just a prepositional phrase. That doesn't change because I've made all the changes in my structure right here. So I don't need this to help it being sold. I don't need this confusing option here. My answer is option 1. Are you following? The car was remodeled by the owners to help it sell. That's it. So in case you're confused. Moving on. Spelling. Spellings, I've already mentioned this. We've discussed this in our previous session also. You either know it or you don't know it. Some options that you could use is you have to know the pronunciation of the word because it'll be easy for you to break it into syllables. Yeah, that's one way to do it. But then you'll have to be really good with your pronunciation, right? You have to know the right pronunciation, and that's always a struggle with all of us, right? We always get the pronunciation incorrect. So I don't know if that will work for you. But if you are familiar with the pronunciation, then great, good for you. You'll be able to break it into syllables. Or you can be familiar with common prefixes and suffixes and know other words that start with this prefix or suffix. So we'll try and incorporate one or two of these strategies into spellings. Let's go back to the question. So I have thrasonical, numeracy, nepotism, and tolerate, right? These are my 4 words. Now some words I might know, like obviously option 2 and option 4. Tolerate is not a very difficult word, right? We know this word, and we know that it's not tolerate, it's tolerate. Because of the pronunciation, I know this is the right pronunciation and it is not this. Let's start with option 1 now, okay? Now, for those of you who don't know this word is pronounced as tra, son, a, kal. There are 4 syllables to this word. Okay, so it's not thrasonical, it's thrasonical. If you know the pronunciation, you know E is incorrect. Numeracy, again, not a difficult word. We know this word, right? It's a noun, basically saying the ability to use numbers, right? So this is a noun form. The adjective form of this is numeric, numerate, yeah, etc. Nepotism. You know, if option 3 was a word, if it was a new word, I actually, how many of you watch, what's that talk show? I forget. Coffee with Karan. Karan Johar's Coffee with Karan. Ayushi, thrasonical means boastful. Let me go back and write that down. Somebody who brags, bragging, boastful. Like, it'll be so weird if you say, my friend is very thrasonical, right? Instead of saying, my friend is very, you know, he's always bragging about things. Just imagine you saying, my friend is thrasonical about things. People will really look at you weirdly. Anyway, that's what happens when you use new vocabulary. So I was yeah, Coffee with Karan. So did you see this episode with Kangana and Saif Ali Khan? So Karan Johar asks a question to Kangana, right? About if you were to write a biography or something, what will you write about me? That was a question. And I remember her answering, you know, in my biopic, you know, if ever it's made, then you'll be playing the part of a, yeah, this is what she said, okay? So you'll be playing the part of a, what is that? She said, stereotypical Bollywood biggie, you know, someone who's like very snooty and totally intolerant towards outsiders, flag bearer of nepotism, the movie mafia. This is what she says, okay? So basically, if you didn't know that word, I got to that word, the meaning, I understood that word's meaning only after that show. I actually went and Googled the word. So nepotism basically means somebody who shows, what can I say, favoritism towards their own people they know, okay? It could be relatives, whatever, friends. So nepotism, so she basically called Karan saying, boss, you always give preference to your own relatives, you promote them. That's what she said. Anyway, so yeah, same here, Sachin, even I came across that word. So that became a big controversy and all of that, but anyway, I learned that word from there. So I know it's definitely not nepotism, it's nepotism, T-I-S-M. Yeah, so anyway, let's move on. The answer obviously is 2. Moving on, what's this? One word substitution. A person who is lazy and has low standards of cleanliness. Options: hog, slob, swine, brute. Okay. Who's a hog? Have you heard people saying, don't be such a greedy pig, or you're such a swine? Basically, they're shouting at you. They think you're disgusting, you're loathsome, right? So these words that you see, a hog is basically a very filthy, gluttonous, self-indulgent person. Literal meaning is a hog is actually a pig weighing about 120 pounds, okay? Yes, I don't know, they always associate pigs to be filthy animals. So you will hear people, you know, using that as abuse. You're such a pig, you know, you're such a swine, disgusting person. Swine is just the, if you ask me, it's a collective term for domestic pigs. Okay. So who's a slob? Slob is our answer. A slob is somebody who's a loafer, idler, a couch potato, good for nothing, no aim, no purpose in life. Yeah, so you don't want anybody calling you a slob. A person who is lazy and has low standards of cleanliness. A brute, on the other hand, is a beast, barbarian, monster, you know, animal-like. Yeah, basically a very crude, insensitive person, right? Imagine a beast does not think. Brutal. Yeah, okay. So obviously our answer is slob. Let's move on. Yeah, hog, similar to swine, yes, there. Antonym, therapeutic. So we can immediately associate the word to therapy, which means it involves some sort of healing, right? Our options are ameliorative, analytic, salubrious, and inimical. I'm sure most of these words you have no idea of what the answer is. So what's ameliorative? Ameliorative means to improve, to make better, right? So if somebody says, okay, so what's the scene with the project? You guys were facing some sort of a difficulty, and then when you say, you know what, not bad, conditions are ameliorating. People don't talk like this, but I'm just giving you an example, right? Conditions are improving. It's looking better now. Analytic, again, something that you use to restore something. Okay, restorative, stimulating. To restore, again, to improve, right? Same meaning. Salubrious. Salubrious means promoting good health. Right? So if you look at all the first three options, ameliorative, which we are saying involves some sort of healing, healing improves, healing restores, healing promotes good health, right? Again, 1, 2, 3, almost synonym in meaning. What is our option here? Inimical. Inimical means what? Just the opposite. Injurious or harmful. My I looks like J. Let me just correct that. Yeah, injurious or harmful in effect. Okay, something adverse. See, like I said again, for questions like this, whether it's spellings or antonyms, synonyms, don't waste a lot of time. If you know the answer, go for it. If not, move on. Okay, don't get marked negatively. Yeah, because I'm sure in the exam, I'm not even sure how many people know these words: ameliorative, analytic, salubrious, inimical. Either you know it or you don't know it. Antonym of perpetuate. Perpetuate. So basically our answer for the last one is inimical, because we're looking at an antonym, right? Something that is not healing, which is harmful. Yeah, there, right? Perpetuate. That's our next question. Antonym. Perpetuate. Perpetual, which means something happening forever, right? Something that is continuing indefinitely. And again, they're asking for an antonym. So, eternize also means what? Something that continues indefinitely. Canonize. It's a completely different word. When you canonize somebody, which means you're glorifying that person. You're almost treating them like they are a saint or something. It's an unrelated word here. To regard as a saint, or to treat as sacred. That's not the word we want. To cease. I know this word, it's not a difficult word. Cease means to stop, to put an end to something. To bolster means support. Yeah? So what is the antonym of perpetuate then? To reinforce, strengthen. So something that is, obviously it has to be 3 only, right? Something is happening forever, opposite is stop. Okay, this is another spot the error one. Let's do this quickly. The task of writing an autobiography is a difficult one. I think this is the most easiest. You should, as soon as you read the question, you should finish it in like 2 seconds. Which part has the error? Yeah, Tamarin. Has to be, no? The most easiest one. Yes, it's just an article error. We can just close our eyes and say it's part B. Moving on. Why is Kishore and Daya saying part 3? The task. So, is fine. It's a singular subject, singular verb. So, if you're thinking that you have to change is to something else, part 3 is absolutely fine, okay? You just change to an because autobiography starts with a vowel. Another idiom and phrase, down to the wire. So we have to figure out what this phrase means, this idiom means. Options are option 1, removing the bondage that is keeping one down the last second before the bomb explodes to denote a situation whose outcome is not decided until the very last minute. Finishing all of one's resources to the last penny. What do you think the answer is? Okay, RKR says option 4, Deepankar says 2, Chinnu Pretam says 3. So it's basically 2, 3 and 4. Nobody goes with 1. Okay, it's also good to know the origin of these phrases. Okay, this phrase down to the wire is usually used in horse racing. So back in some century, okay, long back, what they used to do is they used to tie a wire across the track, across the race track, just above the finish line. Okay, so it'll kind of make it easier for the judges to decide, okay, which horse, you know, finishes first. So that wire will help them. So basically it comes from that origin, the phrase down to the wire means in the last minute, even if they are confused, they don't know which horse crossed the finish line first, they'll use that wire as an indicator. So the decision, right, is made at the end. Because of that wire, they are able to conclude correctly. Okay, so if you're familiar with that expression, yes. If not, so option 3 is our answer, to denote a situation whose outcome is not decided until the very last minute. That's what down to the wire means and not anything else. So if you have to relate it to your own context, or if you have to use it as an example, you can say, you know what, I have an assessment, I have an incomplete project, and I also you know, I have to complete an assignment. So all of which the deadline is tomorrow, which means, you know, I'm working down to the wire. So I hardly till the last minute I have to work, which means maybe I have to forego my sleep and finish all of this, right? So it's come down to the wire. Yeah, if just to give you another context. Let's move on. Direct indirect speech, just like active passive voice, you know the rules, you're good to go. Manoj said, I must go now. Okay, so obviously this is in direct speech. We need to change this to indirect speech. And my options are option 1. Manoj said that he must go then. Manoj said that he must go THAN. Manoj said he has to go then. Another one quick reference is words that denote time changes to distance, right? So now has to change to then. This is incorrect spelling, out. This is also incorrect spelling, out. I have to choose between 1 and 3. What will it be? Chinu says 1. 1. Tamarin says 1. Okay, most of you are coming back and saying 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But I have something different. Now I know that modals, right, usually when you're changing modals from direct to indirect speech, can changes to could, may changes to might, must changes to had to. Henna, isn't that the rule? Yes or no? And if I look at my options, must hasn't changed here, it remains as must in 1. And then in option 3 it says has to go, not had to go. If you ask me, the correct sentence will be Manoj. If you strictly go by the rule, right? It will be Manoj said that he had to go then. Yes or not? Yes. Why must won't change, Vidya? Tell me. He had to go then, right? See, for example, if I said Raj said I must buy this shirt. Okay, this is in direct voice, direct speech. If I have to change this to indirect speech, what will I say? Raj said that he had to buy the shirt, right? So, I am confused with the options given here. What will not change? I'll tell you what will not change from direct speech. I'll tell you what will not change from direct speech to indirect speech. See, I know all my present modals. I just gave you an example, right? All my present modals will change to past modals. I just said that. Oops, sorry. Which is can to could, may to might, and must to had to. But what will not change is what? If the sentence is already in past modals, for example, if I have could, might, would, ought to in my direct speech, then when I'm changing that to indirect speech, it will no change. This I agree. Yes? Yes or no? So, honestly, if you ask me, I will skip this question because for me none of the options are correct. Are you following what I'm saying? We can contend on this in the comments if you would like, but yeah. This changes to that, correct. You're right, Raja. Are you following? So I will not attempt this question. So I'm gonna stick with my answer. But if you have something different, if you can do some research, come back and say, that we need to go with option 1 or so. Please let me know in the comment section. We can gladly. I'm willing to discuss it there. But we're gonna move on now. Okay. What's the next one? One word substitution. To exclude from a society or group. Our clue word being exclude. What are our options? Ostracize, deport, boycott, snub. I'm familiar with the word snub, right? Yeah, I know, Chinu. Why would you mark option 1? Oh, must or had to, huh? I don't know, Vidya. If that is the case, then yes, probably 1 would be a better choice. If not for the given choice, the given example that I had given, if you can retain must as must, then option 1. But show me where that's written though. Okay, anyway. So snub means to talk down to someone, to insult them, right? To snub someone, especially in public. Insult talk down, dismiss, so to exclude from a society or group, not really snub. What's to boycott? Like as a sign of a protest, right? You're saying I will boycott imported goods. I will not purchase imported goods at all. I will only buy products that are manufactured and made in India, right? So just to give you an example, so you can boycott imported goods. You can, usually people boycott elections, right? You don't want to be a part of it. To refuse to have dealings. You know, you can also boycott a business. To refuse to have dealings with a person, right, or what they are doing. Are you following? So, is that our word? Not really. To deport, on the other hand, to deport, usually what happens is, you know, people try and get married to somebody who has a green card or is a citizen of a particular country, so they don't get expelled from that country, right? That's our word. I'm sorry, that's not our word. To deport meaning is that. To expel from a country. Right? So if you might know people or friends or relatives, you know, who went abroad to study, who went for a job, and then they wanted to settle there, so they married someone there. Life is settled. That's what they think. But you never know. To ostracize. To ostracize means, that's the one, right? To refuse to accept someone in a society or a group. So if you find suddenly your friends excluding you from things, from keeping you out from things, not letting you in on their plans, which means they are ostracizing you, dear friend. So you need to pay attention to the signals around you. Yeah? So hopefully no one's getting ostracized by their friends. So excluding someone or shutting you out, keeping you out of their plans, not telling you what's happening. Yeah, and that's our word. To exclude from a society or group, to ostracize. Option 1, yes. Moving on. What was the correct spelling again? Option 1, glucose, and then I have hermetic, wiggling, and derogate. So I'm positive that apart from option 1, none of the other words, you either know the meaning or you're sure of the spelling. So let's quickly do this. Glucose, I know this word. This is the right spelling for glucose. I don't care about the other words. You will still get your marks. Yeah, but just for knowledge sake, the spelling here is Hermetic. It's hermetic, not hermetic. Right, which means complete and airtight. Like a, yeah. Wiggle. Wiggle, I can think of two images for wiggle. One is like a puppy with its tail, wiggling its tail, right, to shake back and forth. Or especially in the advertisements, they'll show girls trying to, you know, they're wearing tight jeans, and either to pull it up or to pull it down, they'll do one shake, right? So a jerk or a shake, that's also a wiggle. So these two images flash in my head for wiggle. A puppy wiggling its tail, or, you know, someone trying to remove or put on something tight, which means they have to either jerk or shake to get that off their body. So wiggle, again, the right spelling is W-I-G-G-L-E, it's two G's. Derogate, is one R only, not two R's. Derogate means again to, you know, talk down, make light of, belittle. Yeah. The easy way to remember this word, okay, for example, remember I said if you know the syllable breakup, I'll use derogate as an example just to prove that particular strategy. Okay, see, for example, if I have to divide this word, I'll divide it into syllables, which is de, o, gate. Okay, remember I said one syllable is one vowel sound. What are my vowels? A, E, I, O, U. If you were there for the first session, I explained this a little bit more in detail. So I have E, I have O, and I have A, right? So I've divided them based on the syllable sound, one unit. So there is only one R. It's not D-R-R. So there are other words like this. For example, derivate, same thing. Or dermatologist. Okay, let's go with dermatology. Oops. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 syllables. Anyway, the point is, hey Ayushi, I just gave you two examples, two images of wiggle. You'll know. I think you're getting the video a little late. Yeah. So the idea for spellings is either we're really good with pronunciation, or we know the syllable breakup so we don't get confused, or we are familiar with other words that have the same common prefix, der, which I just gave examples, dermatologist, derivate. Yeah, let's move on. This is a fill in the blanks. If immigrants don't learn to speak the native languages of their new countries, they won't be able to dash themselves into society. So our options are conjoin, interface, integrate, reconciliate. Sorry. What are our options? Are you guys there? What's the clue word from the, there's a clue phrase from the context. Can you quickly identify what that clue phrase is? So basically I have different options for this question. I have 1, 3 and 4. Thankfully nobody said interface. Because we all know, like if I say user interface, we know we're talking about you know, how something looks on a screen, and you know how user friendly it is in terms of the icons and symbols which is accessible to the user, right? So definitely it's not interface. That much we know. So people are coming back and saying conjoin, integrate and reconciliate. Conjoin means to unite, to join, right? We already have the word there. Integrate means what? Reconciliate, on the other hand, guys, I saw some of you saying option 4. Now, let's say Prince and Chinu had some sort of a argument, right? They disagreed on something. They did not come to an agreement saying, okay, you know what? But after a point of time, they realized, you know what? I don't think this is important. We're wasting time. It's better if we just agree on this. So then they come back and they reconcile, which means they agree. After their argument, they come back and they reconcile. So that's a completely different meaning. Option 4 can be ruled out. Yeah, let's rule it out. So to reconciliate means to become friendly after an argument. not the word that we're looking for in our context. Out. So that leaves us with only either conjoin or integrate, right? What's to integrate? When you're integrating someone into something, which means you're making them, you're enabling them to adapt, to fit into, to suit what's happening, right? So usually you will use integrate in the lines of to blend with, or to adapt to, or to match with, right? Suit. These are all the words that I can quickly associate integrate with. Especially when you're talking about to allowing groups to mix in the society. Yeah? So especially an immigrant will find it very difficult to integrate into city life. So in our context, isn't that the meaning? The context is saying if immigrants don't learn to speak the native languages, right? Immigrants being your clue word itself of their new countries, they won't be able to integrate, which means blend into the society, blend with, adapt to, match with, suit, right? Not conjoin. We're not talking about some combining or associating. It's more on the lines of how are they going to blend with the society. Yes, other clue words are new place, right? So if they know the language, it will be easier for them to blend in to that society, because then they're familiar, they follow what's happening, they're able to, their lives are just much easier. Imagine you going to a foreign country and you don't know the language, right? You're going to feel extremely uncomfortable and isolated and alienated. Yeah. Let's move on. Okay, the last one is our close passage. Rahul, I keep saying this, the best way to remember vocabulary is, at least the way that I remember vocabulary, is to associate it with images or people whom I know. Or constantly, repetition is a powerful tool to remember vocabulary as well. I play these, there are a lot of apps and games available that you can fix on your, download on your phone. Apps where you can play a lot of vocabulary games, right? Especially things that have these reward systems and point systems, which show you how many points you've accumulated, how many rewards, and then it shows you where you stand among the rest of the group and stuff like that. Those are very good apps which I think all of you should engage in, right? So any repetitive tool is extremely powerful for us to retain vocabulary, because there are so many words and it's extremely difficult for us to remember all the words unless the words are bombarded, right, constantly, and we are engaged with the word in some form or the other, because people are not going to use words like snivel and squawk and acquiesce, right? So which means I need other sources or other stimulants to help me remember the word. Yeah. So coming back to for the last question type of our paper, which is close passage, what we need to do is always just 5 blanks and then we're done. Right, look at the context. Let's quickly skim this context so we have an idea what words we can associate the context with. Dash the troubled asset relief program. The government had purchased assets of struggling banks with a view dash ensuring that they did not collapse, taking dash them the rest of the financial system. These assets dash later at a profit by the government. The US government had acted smartly, while in the Indian case the banks now find themselves dash with loans made by them to an individual with negative net worth. So having said this, let's look at our first context. Dash the troubled asset relief program. Options are below, down, lower, under. If you were there for my first session, I clearly gave the difference between below and under, and we looked at some example sentences. If you can remember, let's see you get this answer right. Yeah? Yes. So what meaning? So most of you have come back and said option 4, which is the right option. So what meaning is option 4 bringing? So when I say under the troubled asset relief program, I'm saying under the guidance, right, or the control. So as guided by TARP or as controlled by TARP, right, that's the meaning that under brings in this context. So under the troubled asset relief program, we are clear here, great. Let's move on. The government had purchased assets of struggling banks with a view dash ensuring that they did not collapse. Options, all of these are, the first 3 are prepositions and then I have a conjunction. To, of, for and so. What's the option? Yes, as per that program, that's right, RK. Under the troubled asset relief program, the government had purchased assets of struggling banks with a view. So Tamarin says option 2. I'm sorry, okay, Tamarin says option 2. Aishi says option 1. So it's between, Kishore says option 4. Sai also says option 4. And then somebody says option 3. So basically you've given me all the 4 options. Okay, now let's quickly break this down, okay? With a view dash ensuring. So it cannot be so, right? Incorrect. I will quickly eliminate Deepankar and somebody else who mentioned option 4. I will quickly eliminate the so, because we're not looking at a reason. Something happened, so this happened, right? We're not looking at a consequence or a reason. I will eliminate 4. Now, option 3. Yes, 4 is a preposition that talks about purpose. I agree. But there's something that you need to know, right? It's always, let me just break it down for you guys. With a view, right, the collocation or the construction of the sentence is always this. You either have with a view to doing something. This is the construction. Please note this construction, with a view to doing something or with a view of something, right? Now let's look at example sentences quickly. With a view to doing something. So if I say Sandhya will take measures. Sandhya will take measures to work hard with a view to getting promoted. Okay? Note the point. Or I can say, can you get a view of the house? Or I can also say, what can I say? I can say, okay, the policy has little view of success. So if you notice the construction, it's always a view of something, right? A noun for the most part, and it's with a view to doing something. So in our context, what is it? With a view, what is it doing something? Ensuring that they did not collapse, right? Which means it has to be option 1. With a view to doing something. That's the construction. That's the collocation. So I will say, Amit, let me give you another example. Okay, where can I write it? I'll write it here. Amit has a view to securing further qualifications. Right? Look at the construction, a view to doing something. So option 1 is our answer, right? So don't get confused. You can have a view about something, you can have a view to doing something, you can have a view of something. Look up any example sentences. This will be the construction. So if you're familiar with this construction, you will close your eyes and choose option 1. See, most of us go with collocation, point of view. That's different. In a sentence, right, you'll have to also pay attention. Yeah, with a view to ensure, that's also there. Yes. That is also correct. But if you look at that, it's you followed by a verb, action word. Let's move on. So blank 2. So under the Troubled Asset Relief Program, the government had purchased assets of struggling banks with a view to ensuring that they did not collapse, taking dash them the rest of the financial system. The options are from, all, along with, also with. Not necessarily, Spandana. English is tricky that way, no? It depends on the context and it also depends on the word choice. We're talking about ensure as a word choice, and given the context, that would be the right construction. So don't follow that blindly. It will vary context to context. Yeah, so they did not collapse, taking see, the government is ensuring that they do not collapse, not taking from them, right? They don't want to pull the rest of the financial system also down. So it has to be what? Along with. It cannot be from, no? That doesn't make logical sense. Think. So under the Troubled Asset Relief Program, the government had purchased assets of struggling banks. So this is what they did. What is the intention behind that? That they did not collapse, taking along with them. It cannot also be also, right? Because there's nothing else that has been spoken of earlier. It has to be option 3. Taking along with them the rest of the financial. These assets dash later at a profit. Options are disposed of, were disposed of, are disposed OFF, had been disposed OFF. So I have to, a little bit of tense and the right phrasal verb again. What's the phrasal verb? For blank 4, which option are you choosing? 1, 2, 3 or 4? The context is past tense, right? Had purchased, they did not, had acted. So what will it be? And the right thing is not OFF. So I can quickly eliminate option 3 and 4. If I have to choose between 1 and 2, The phrasal verb is disposed of, which means to throw out, to get rid of. Let me give you an example sentence. He managed to dispose of more money and goods. Right? Get rid of. He disposed of the newspapers after reading them. Yep. Option 2, not OFF. Last blank, blank 5. So the US government had acted smartly, while in the Indian case, the banks now find themselves dash with loans made by them to an individual with negative net worth. What's our answer? What do you think the answer is? So remember, the meaning that blank 5 is bringing in is to be burdened, right? To baffle means what? Priyatham and Tamiran says option 2. To baffle means what? Imagine an experts are doing some sort of a study, okay? They're studying apple trees and suddenly the apple tree starts producing square fruits. Then the experts will be baffled. What's happening? What's happening, dude? Why is this tree producing square apples? Right? That's to be baffled. Baffled means confused, perplexed. What's happening? Puzzled. So, in fact, puzzled and baffled are synonyms. Right? This has no bearing with the context. To be confused, to be perplexed. Not happening. This is not the word. Caught again is an unrelated word because, I mean, there are so many meanings to caught, right? It can mean capture. It can mean to surprise someone. Right? So imagine you caught your friend stealing money, from his dad's shirt pocket or something, right? So you're catching someone in the act of doing something, catching them by surprise. Yeah? He caught the flu, to be infected by an illness. So there are different meanings for caught. Again, not the right word given the context. There are so many meanings. I don't want to get into all the meanings. The word that we're looking at is saddled. To saddle, imagine a donkey with a saddle, right? Heavy, it's carrying a heavy load of, it's a burden for the donkey. So saddled is our word. Burdened with loans made by them. So saddled means same thing. To burden. Yeah, you can be saddled with heavy expenses, and this is your clue preposition, saddled with. Like an associated word. It's almost like a collocation. You saddle somebody with something. Or you get saddled with something. Right? That's the construction. I mean, something only I put as STH, okay? Don't get confused. So if I have to put it in context, I'll say, hey, Ashwin, I didn't mean to saddle you with my problems. right? Basically what I'm saying, hey Ashwin, I didn't mean to burden you with my problems. Yeah, you can use whatever strategies, but just for the benefit of others knowing the meaning, right? Most of them came back and said option 2. So I just wanted to clarify that. So let's go back and read the entire context and see if it makes sense. So under the Troubled Asset Relief Program, the government had purchased assets of struggling banks with a view to ensuring that they did not collapse, taking along with them the rest of the financial system. These assets dash later at a were disposed of later at a profit by the government. The US government had acted smartly, while in the Indian case, the banks now find themselves saddled with loans made by them to an individual with negative net worth. So if you got this right, you're good to go. But otherwise, I'm sure most of you would have got blank 2 incorrect, and some of you even blank 3, 4 and 5. So either ways, either you're familiar with collocations or you're familiar with certain constructions. You know, in a sentence, this is how the words are formed in terms of just word formation in a sentence, right? Very, very basic, but most of us get confused because we're not in the habit of reading extensively. Alright guys, so that brings us to the end of the session. So I do appreciate your patience. It's slightly longer than the first one, but hopefully you've learned quite a number of words. Remember the words, retain the meaning of the words, try and register them with either the example sentences that I gave or the actions that I mentioned. So yeah, I think that's the only way to be able to relate, right? When learning is fun, it becomes easier for you to register things. So thanks once again. I will see you guys next session. I'm sure you're also taking advantage of the quantitative session and the reasoning session that's happening every other day. So yeah, please feel free to post a comment and like this video if you really learned something beneficial. Pass on the word. Let your friends also join, and we can all learn together and have fun at the same time. Yeah, so thank you guys, and I will see you in the next session. Until then, take care, keep practicing. Bye.